63,000 dead and only one empty space left. Mine. Yeah, I just said that out loud. Riley Vale, reporting live from the mouth of the Waverly body chute, where the air tastes like rusted pennies and old apologies. My helmet cam is already fogging, but 900,000 of you demanded this, so here we are. I can smell the iron in the wind, like the gate itself is bleeding. I drag the bolt cutters from my pack, metal teeth glinting like a promise I probably shouldn't keep. The lock is older than most of my viewers, a brass beast frozen mid-scream. I position the jaws, squeeze. The shackle snaps with a sound like a femur giving up. First victory of the night. I shoulder the gate and it answers with a groan so low it vibrates my teeth, like something down there just woke up and cleared its throat. I taste wet stone on the back of my tongue. My boots crunch over gravel loud enough to wake the county. I pause, let the mic drink it in. Listen close, and you'll hear the echo breathing back at me. That's not reverb, friends. That's the chute itself, a limestone throat 400 feet long, once built to slide corpses downhill so the living wouldn't see them. Tonight, I'm going up it backwards, against gravity, against sense. The things we do for clicks. I click on the thermal overlay. Nothing yet, just cold stone and colder shadows. My pulse hammers so hard the camera stabilizer stutters. That's new. I steady my breathing, narrate for the algorithm. Okay, legends say the 63,000th echo is reserved for the living who trespass. Sounds dramatic, right? But I felt the count reset the second the gate kissed the wall behind me. One of you typed 63,001 in chat. Then your username vanished. Screen froze. I refresh, still gone. Coincidence, sure. Let's keep walking. The chute narrows, limestone pressing in like it's jealous of skin. My foot slips on something slick. Could be moss, could be worse. I smell formaldehyde older than disco. The walls weep here, little mineral tears that taste of salt and antiseptic when they land on my lip. I taste history, and history tastes like regret. A sudden clatter behind me. I spin, beam slicing darkness. Nothing. Just my own echo wearing my footsteps like borrowed shoes. Except the echo has too many legs. I don't say that aloud. Can't spook the viewers. But my thumb hovers over the panic button on the GoPro. Not yet. Not when we're this close to the first marker. The air thickens, colder than the night outside. My breath comes out in pale ribbons that don't drift away. They coil back toward my face like they're curious. I taste copper again, stronger now. The camera flickers. Frame drops to 12 per second, then back to 30. Connection unstable, the HUD whispers. Story of my life. I reach the first bend. The walls open into a wider chamber where the rails split like a forked tongue. I pan the light across the ceiling. Dozens of metal hooks still hang from chains, swaying though there's no wind. One hook is lower than the rest, freshly scraped, bright silver against the rust. Something drips from it, slow and deliberate. I step closer, boot squelching in something I refuse to name. The drip syncs with my heartbeat. That can't be good. My chat scrolls nonsense. Behind you. Don't look back. 63,000. I thumb the screen to hide it. The hook creaks, turns toward me like it recognizes a volunteer. Okay, Riley, keep it together. I raise the camera, narrate steady. This is where they wheeled the bodies out. The feed stutters again. This time the audio cuts, then returns with a second voice layered beneath mine, saying the same sentence, half a beat late. I freeze. The echo isn't echoing anymore. It's answering. I kill the mic. Listen. Silence. Then, soft as breath, 63,000 whispers rise up the tunnel, each one saying my name like they've been practicing. I backpedal, but the rails twist underfoot. The gate I came through? Gone. Just limestone and hooks and that single silver one swinging faster now, counting down. Riley Vale, 63,001. My headlamp flickers, and for one frame the darkness has a shape. Tall, thin, waiting at the far end of the chamber, with arms that don't end in hands. The screen blacks out. Chat floods. Run. When the feed returns, I'm not alone. Something stands between me and the exit, and it's already waving.
The feed stutters back to life, and I'm staring straight into the dark, heart punching my ribs like it wants out.
The thing that waved? Gone. Just empty tunnel breathing damp air against my cheeks. I swing the headlamp left, right. Nothing but limestone sweating ghost-colored water. The chat scroll is a waterfall of panic, usernames stacking faster than I can read. Somewhere inside the noise, one line keeps resurfacing, same font, same chill. At Echo 63K, name the first, take their place. Yeah, classic copy pasta creepiness, right? I almost type, nice try, but my thumb freezes because that brass plaque wasn't there 5 seconds ago. It's about the size of a postcard, screwed into the wall at shoulder height, and the letters are raised like braille for the dead. Mary Ellison, 1912. Influenza. A single dried chrysanthemum lies beneath it, brittle as old bone. I reach out, don't know why, and the petals crumble between my fingers, releasing a breath of cemetery sweetness. The counter on my wrist HUD blinks, 63,000. Then, without sound, it ticks down to 62,999. I swear I didn't touch anything. I swear the air just got colder. My boot scrapes concrete as I take the first deliberate step onto the ramp. The slope is gentle, maybe 10 degrees, but it feels like tipping over a cliff. Water trickles somewhere below, a steady metallic drip that echoes back as footsteps. Chat's begging me to turn around, but the gate behind me is still gone, just smooth rock and those iron hooks hanging like question marks. Okay, Riley, I mutter, you wanted content. The laugh tastes sour. 10 steps down, 20. The ramp curves left and the darkness thickens, swallowing the headlamp's reach. Every footfall lands softer, as if the concrete is growing moss in real time. The chat slows, like people holding their breath. Then, at Echo 63K posts again, name the first, take their place. This time, it's pinned to the top of the feed, impossible to scroll away. I try to ban the user. Error. Try to block. Error. The letters pulse, brighter each second, until they're burning white on black. All right, I tell myself. It's just code, just some basement wizard having fun. But my voice cracks on the last word. A new sound slips between the drips. A child humming. 3 notes. Off key. It's coming from below, carried on air that smells like wet wool and coal dust. I angle the light downward, and the beam snags on something round and pale, half buried in the slope. A marble? No, an eye. A glass prosthetic, iris-painted cornflower blue, staring up from the concrete as if it grew there. I skirt it, shoulder brushing the wall, and the brass plaques start appearing every few yards. William Hargrove, 1911, tuberculosis. Margaret Green, 1910, typhus. Each name accompanied by a withered flower, each flower older than the last. The humming stops. Silence swells until my ears ring. Then, directly behind me, someone exhales. Warm, damp, smelling of iron. Riley Vale, 62,998. I spin. Empty ramp. The HUD blinks again, obedient. My own name tastes foreign when I whisper it back, like trying on a coat that doesn't fit. Chat erupts. She's counting down for you. Say it out loud. Don't. I clamp my jaw shut, but the urge bubbles up, ridiculous and huge. What if I just say it? What if I test the joke? I force myself forward instead, boots slipping on moss that definitely wasn't there before. The ramp levels into a narrow landing where the walls pinch closer, almost brushing my elbows. Here the plaques stop, replaced by shallow notches carved right into the stone. Hundreds of them, each the size of a coffin plate. Inside every notch lies a tiny brass tag, unmarked, mirror bright. I raise the camera to get a closer look, and the reflection shows me nothing but tunnel, as if I'm the one who's invisible. A gust of wind, impossible, underground, snuffs my headlamp. Pitch black. The HUD stays lit, numbers pulsing like a heartbeat. 62,997. I slap the lamp, click the backup switch, nothing. In the darkness, Something brushes the back of my glove. Deliberate, fingertip tracing lifeline to heartline. My knees buckle. The chat has gone eerily quiet. The only new messages, at Echo 63K, now in all caps. Name the first. Take their place. The words vibrate through the wristband, through bone. I swallow hard, throat raw with dust. Mary Ellison, I croak, because it's the only name I can remember, because maybe saying someone else's keeps mine safe. The instant the syllables leave my mouth, every brass plaque along the ramp answers in chorus, hundreds of voices overlapping, each one a different name, none of them mine. The counter hesitates, flickers. Then, with a soft mechanical sigh, it rolls back up to 63,000. Relief slams into me so hard I laugh, a cracked, desperate bark that ricochets off stone. But the laugh dies when the landing ahead opens like a mouth, revealing a second ramp steeper than the first. At its lip, a new plaque gleams under my restored light. Riley Vale, 2024. And the rest is blank, waiting. The HUD blinks once, then dims to a single steady red dot. I feel the weight of every echo behind me, pressing, patient. Say it again. The tunnel seems to breathe, but this time mean it. My foot hovers over the edge of the new slope. Somewhere far below, the child starts humming again, only now the tune is mine. The slope is so steep, my boots squeal like they're begging for mercy. I brace my shoulder against the wall and crab walk sideways, knees trembling, every creak of the metal stairs sounding like a bone giving up. The plaque with my name is still burning in my mind, Riley Vale, 2024, like it's already printed on a toe tag somewhere. The tunnel behind me is quiet now, too quiet, as if every echo I ever made is holding its breath. And then, just when I think the silence will swallow me whole, I hear it, a thin, reedy note, sharp as a splinter. It's the same tune the child hummed, only now it's coming from something metal. I reach the first landing where the floor evens out for maybe 3 body lengths. In the middle sits an old gurney, its wheels rusted into orange blossoms. Strapped to the frame is a leather restraint, cracked and dark with stains that could be blood or just years of dam. Dangling from the restraint, almost hidden, is a small tin whistle no longer than my finger. The metal is dull pewter, pitted with age, but the mouthpiece still gleams as though someone just set it down. My chat scroll explodes. Don't touch it! Back away! Riley, no! But my hand is already moving, fingers brushing the cold metal. I tell them, it's just a kid's toy. Nothing haunted about a whistle, right? The instant my skin meets it, the HUD flares white, then prints a neat little label. Timothy Red, 1924, measles. Same year the sanatorium overflowed. Same year they started rolling the little coffins down this chute. The whistle feels heavier than it should, like it's full of water, or something thicker. I lift it to my lips without thinking. Just a quick test. The note that comes out is broken, flat, trailing off like a question nobody wants answered. The metal turns arctic. Frost blooms across the mouthpiece, and my lip sticks fast, skin tearing free with a wet pop. Chat screams in all caps, "Drop it, drop it, drop it!" I fling the whistle away. It clatters against the gurney, spinning, but the note keeps hanging in the air, stretching thinner and thinner until it isn't a sound anymore. It's a presence. The echo counter in the corner of my vision blinks, then ticks downward. 62,998. 2 gone, just like that. The tunnel exhales a smell of camphor and sour milk, the exact scent of a sick room sealed for a century. Somewhere deeper, a small voice giggles, high and papery. You played my song. It says, now I get to play yours. I back away from the gurney, but the whistle rolls after me, clanging like it's kicked by invisible feet. Each clang lands exactly on the beat of my heart, speeding up, faster, until my pulse is sprinting. The walls narrow, ceiling dropping until I have to duck, and the concrete turns from gray to a sickly hospital green. Fluorescent lights flicker on overhead, though no wires run to them. The air is thick, tasting of medicine and old linen. I try to run, but my boots slip on the wet floor. My own wheezing breath joins the phantom orchestra. Every exhale becomes a rasping whistle. the exact broken note I just played. My lungs feel lined with tin. Chat begs me to mute the mic so they don't have to hear it, but the sound is inside me now. I taste rust and sugar, like blood after chewing a penny. The counter drops again, 62,997, and I realize each lost echo is a heartbeat stolen from me, pressed into service down here. A door appears ahead, heavy steel with a small wire mesh window. Through the mesh, I glimpse a ward of tiny beds, sheets pulled tight over nothing, rocking gently as if children just climbed out. Of course they did. One bed is still indented, covers thrown back, a damp outline the size of a small boy. The whistle skitters past my boots and slides under the door like a letter through a slot. The humming swells into a full melody. My melody. The tune I whistle when I'm nervous. They learn so fast. The tunnel croons. I grip the door handle. It's warm, disturbingly so, like skin flushed with fever. The metal pulses once, twice. The echo counter hovers at 62,996, daring me to open it. Behind me, the gurney wheels creak, rolling closer though the floor is level. My thumb hovers over the latch. Somewhere inside the ward, bed springs squeak in rhythm. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, like a child tapping Morse. The tune I whistle when I'm nervous is now tapping back. The counter blinks again, ready to fall. I smell talcum powder and iodine. My own heartbeat is slowing, sinking to the lullaby of a boy who's been dead for 100 years. I pull the door open just enough for the darkness inside to breathe out. Ready or not. The tunnel sighs. Here I come. I step through the doorway, and the talc smell thickens like fog. The corridor stretches ahead, floor tiles cracked in perfect spirals that remind me of snail shells. My flashlight trembles, painting the walls in long, sickly yellow stripes. Behind me, the doors size shut without a sound, but I feel the click travel up my spine like a cold needle. The counter on my wrist reads 62,997, and every number feels heavier, like stones sewn into my skin. Somewhere ahead, metal wheels begin to turn, soft, deliberate. Ah! A wheelchair rolls itself out of a side room, slow as a funeral march. The rubber tires whisper against the tile, steady, patient. I want to run, but my legs feel packed with wet sand. The chair stops 10 feet away, facing me like it recognizes me. The seat is worn leather, cracked and weeping stuffing that looks too much like old bandages. Of course it does. The tunnel loves a good prop. I edge closer, because curiosity is a disease worse than tuberculosis. On the seat rests a clipboard, the kind nurses carried when this place still pretended to heal people. The pages are yellowed, but the top sheet is crisp, almost new. I lift it with 2 fingers, half expecting it to crumble. The header reads, Death Ledger, Ward 7. My throat tightens. I flip to the last filled line. The ink is still wet, glossy black beads that haven't soaked in. Clara Stowe, 1931, self-inflicted. The letters shine like fresh oil. Impossible. I touch the word inflicted, and my fingertip comes away stained. The wheelchair creaks, a sound like bones settling. It pivots toward me, slow and deliberate, until the footrests point at my shins. The seatbelt buckle unlatches with a metallic sigh. The leather seat looks warm, as if someone just stood up. My name is not on the ledger, not yet, but the chair seems to know I'm next in line. I back away 1 step, 2, but the corridor stretches longer behind me. The door I came through vanished into darkness. A clipboard page flutters without wind. I catch it mid-turn and see another entry, this one older, the ink brown with age. William Dorsey, 1928, exhaustion. Underneath, in the same handwriting, a note. He kept whistling, wouldn't stop. My stomach flips. The boy with the tin whistle. Chapter 3 suddenly feels like yesterday. I flip faster. Dozens of names, all ending the same way. Self-inflicted, exhaustion, vanished. The handwriting never changes. Same looping G, same slanted T, same nurse, same pen, same corridor. The wheelchair rolls forward 1 foot, gentle, coaxing. The leather creaks. I smell lavender water and something sharper. Iodine, maybe blood. My knees buckle before I decide to kneel. I press my hand to the seat, and it's warm, feverish, pulsing like a throat. The counter on my wrist ticks down to 62,996. Somewhere far off, a child's whistle answers. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. The tune I used to calm myself is now calling me home. I want to drop the clipboard, but the pages stick to my fingers like wet leaves. Another line appears before my eyes, the ink spreading as I watch. Riley. It stops mid-word, waiting for the rest. My name, unfinished, hanging like a guillotine. Not yet. I slam the clipboard shut. The metal clasp cuts my thumb. Blood beads, black under the flashlight, and drips onto the ledger. The paper drinks it greedily, the red blooming outward into the shape of a heart. The wheelchair lurches another foot. The seatbelt strap lifts, curling like a finger. It's almost playful, the way it beckons. I stand my ground, but the corridor walls pulse inward, breathing. The mint paint flakes off in sheets, revealing older wallpaper beneath. Tiny roses on a field of ash. The roses look wilted, as if they've been crying. Behind me, footsteps. Not mine. Soft-soled shoes, the kind nurses wore when silence was mercy. I turn, but the hallway is empty except for the dust swirling in frantic spirals. The footsteps stop when I face them. When I turn back, the wheelchair has crept closer. The seat now cradles a depression, the exact size of me. I clutch the clipboard to my chest like armor. The last page flips open on its own. The ink finishes itself while I watch. Riley Harper, 2024, exhaustion. Below, a new line starts. Cause. The pen hovers in invisible fingers, waiting for inspiration. My legs give out, and I sit hard on the cold tile. The wheelchair rolls back a respectful foot, as if granting me time to reconsider. The counter blinks 62,995. The whistle sounds again, closer now, maybe 2 corridors over. I drag myself upright, legs shaking. The wheelchair doesn't follow. It just waits, patient as a tombstone. The seatbelt strap hangs loose, swaying slightly, like a metronome counting down. I take one step back, then another. The clipboard stays warm in my hand, pages fluttering like trapped birds. I should drop it, but the thought feels like betrayal. Claire is still bleeding. The ink hasn't dried yet. The hallway behind me forks into 3 identical paths, each darker than the last. Somewhere, a gurney rattles. Somewhere, a woman sobs into her pillow. The counter keeps falling, and I haven't even found the chute. At the far end of the corridor, a light flickers on. Single bulb, bare, swinging. Beneath it stands a figure in white. Not quite a nurse, not quite a patient. She lifts her head slowly, and even from this distance, I see the clipboard in her hand match mine exactly. She raises it, showing me the final blank line. Then she smiles, gentle as a scalpel, and points toward the wheelchair. I clutch the ledger tighter and run. I didn't stop running until the corridor bent and the swinging bulb was a pinprick behind me. My shoes scraped over grit and peeling linoleum. The ledger clenched like a shield against my chest. The air tasted of wet plaster and something sweeter. Burnt sugar, maybe formaldehyde. I rounded another corner, and the hallway widened into what had once been a solarium. Moonlight poured through tall, cracked windows, silvering overturned wheelchairs and the skeleton of a grand piano. Dust motes drifted like lazy snow. That was when I heard the soft click whir of a shutter. I froze. The sound came again. Click whir, followed by a low, mechanical sigh. I turned slowly. Near the far wall, beneath a broken skylight, stood an old camera on a wooden tripod. Brass fittings, leather bellows, the kind of thing you'd see in a museum. Its flashbulb, one of those silvered bulbs the size of a lemon, glowed a sickly yellow. Another click. The bulb flashed, and the room turned white. I staggered back, spots blooming across my vision like ink in water. When the afterimage faded, I saw the Polaroid on the floor between us. I didn't pick it up at first. I just stared, because the camera had no operator. The tripod legs were planted in a perfect triangle, but nobody was touching it. Another click, another flash. The second photo slid from the slot and fluttered down beside the first. My curiosity won. I crept forward, knelt, and turned the top print over. It was me. Same jacket, same ponytail, same cracked lens in my glasses. Except my face, my entire face, was smeared. as though someone had dragged a thumb through wet paint. Beneath the blur, my features looked melted. On the back, in faded blue ink, someone had written, Elias Moran, 1945, exposure. I don't know an Elias Moran. The camera clicked again. The bulb popped. A third photo slid out. I snatched it before it touched the floor. This time the figure was one step closer. Me again. Same stance, same clothes, but now the blur had swallowed everything from nose to chin. I could just make out my eyes, wide and terrified, as if the camera had caught the moment I understood what was happening. The counter on the back read 62,996. I backed away, but the tripod creaked and swiveled, keeping me centered. Click whir. Another flash, another step closer. The counter dropped to 62,995. I could taste metal on my tongue now, the same taste you get after touching a 9-volt battery to your teeth. The ledger felt heavier, as though the pages had soaked up water, or blood. I flipped it open, desperate to see if the line had filled itself, but the paper was blank except for a single fingerprint in sepia ink. The camera leaned forward, as if bowing. Its bellows flexed like lungs drawing breath. I know how insane that sounds. A machine shouldn't breathe, yet I swear I felt the air stir, cold against my neck. I raised the ledger like a crucifix, though I'm not sure against one. The bulb flashed again. This time I didn't see white. I saw red, deep arterial red, and the photo that slid out steamed in the moonlight. I forced myself to look. My silhouette was clearer now, the blur receding from the edges of my face like frost melting. But in the background, behind me, stood a second figure. Tall, thin, wearing a hospital gown that flapped like a sail. No face on that one either, just a pale oval where features should be. The counter on the back had ticked down another digit, 62,994. I turned, heart hammering, but the solarium was empty. Wheelchairs sat silent. The piano's keys grinned with broken teeth. Still, I felt watched. The camera had angled itself again, lens staring like a single, unblinking eye. I grabbed the tripod, meaning to topple it, but the metal was ice cold and stuck fast, as though the legs had grown roots through the floor. When I pulled, the bulb flashed in my face, searing my retinas. When the spots cleared, I was holding another Polaroid. This one showed the corridor outside the solarium. In it, I was walking away, back turned, ledger under my arm. But the corridor wasn't empty. The faceless figure followed 3 paces behind, hand outstretched, as if to tap my shoulder. The counter now read 62,993. I spun around. The doorway yawned open, leading into deeper darkness. Somewhere down that hall, water dripped in a steady, patient rhythm. I could swear I heard the soft squeak of rubber soles on tile. Coming closer. The tripod creaked again. I didn't wait for the next flash. I bolted, clutching the photos and the ledger, lungs burning with every stride. The corridor narrowed, the walls sweating a pale slime that smelled of iodine. I passed rooms filled with sheeted gurneys, each one bearing a lumpy silhouette. One sheet fluttered as I ran by, and I caught the glint of a camera lens beneath it. Another flash lit the hallway behind me, throwing my shadow long and distorted against the far wall. I didn't stop until the floor sloped downward, and the air grew colder. My shoes splashed through shallow puddles that reflected the ceiling in broken mirrors. At the bottom of the slope stood a heavy metal door, rust blooming across its surface like dried blood. A small brass plate read, Body Chute, authorized personnel only. Beneath it, someone had scratched a single word with a key or a scalpel. Elias. I reached for the handle, but before my fingers touched metal, the ledger vibrated. The blank page now held a fresh fingerprint, still wet, and beneath it, a date. Tonight. The counter at the top had changed again. 62,992. Behind me, the corridor was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps, no dripping water, no click whir. Just the soft, patient hiss of a bulb cooling. I pressed my ear to the door. From the other side came the low rumble of wheels on metal rails, slow and steady, like a gurney descending a slope that never ends. I don't know what waits down that chute. I only know the camera hasn't finished its roll. And somewhere, maybe still in the solarium, the shutter is resetting, ready for the next exposure, ready for the next face it plans to steal. I stepped through the door before the wheels could stop rolling. The corridor beyond wasn't a corridor at all. It was a theater. An operating theater, frozen mid-procedure like someone had slammed pause on the entire year 1952. The light above me rocked back and forth with the weight of its own memory. Every swing made the shadows dance, made the room breathe. I could smell it, old blood and ether, mixed with something sweeter, like gardenias left too long in water. My shoes stuck to the floor with each step. Not from water at all. And there it was, center stage, a metal operating table that looked more like an altar, and on it, on it sat a single scalpel, not dusty, not rusted, gleaming like it had just been sterilized, like it was waiting. Next to it, a clipboard, yellowed paper, crisp handwriting. Patient, Dr. Helena Voss. Date, October 12, 1952. Cause, massive hemorrhage post-appendectomy. Notes, unprecedented, no further documentation. I reached for it. My fingers had barely brushed the edge when the light above me groaned, metal on metal, and the scalpel moved. It didn't slide. It didn't fall. It lifted, like an invisible hand had picked it up by the handle, and then it began to write. Not on paper, on the table. The tip scraped slow and deliberate, carving into the steel with a sound that made my teeth itch. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just watched as the numbers formed. 6, 2, 9, 9, 5, 62,995. The number echoed in my head like a heartbeat. I didn't know what it meant, not yet, but I felt it, like a countdown, like a tally, like I was next. Then came the drip, slow, steady, from nowhere, from the air itself. Red, thick. It pooled on the table beside the scalpel and began to move. Not randomly, not like liquid should. It spelled, your turn. Your turn. I stumbled back, my heel catching on something soft. I looked down. A surgical mask, old, stained, but not with blood, with lipstick, bright, defiant red. Helena's, maybe. I picked it up, and the moment I did, the swinging light stopped, dead still. The room exhaled, a long, wet sigh that came from the walls, from the vents, from the drain in the corner. And then the table began to hum. Not a sound I could hear with my ears, a vibration in my bones, like the building remembered what it had done here, like it wanted to finish the job. I turned to run, but the door wasn't where it had been. Just wall, smooth tile, no handle, no seam, just a faint outline where the frame used to be. The air grew thick. My lungs felt full of cotton and rust. The scalpel turned toward me, slowly, like it was curious, like it was asking permission. I backed up until my spine hit the instrument tray. Scissors clattered to the floor, a bone saw, forceps, all of it ancient but sharp, still sharp. And then I heard her, a voice, not from the room, from the mask still dangling from my fingers. Soft, feminine, tired. You're not supposed to be here yet. I dropped it like it burned me. It landed face up, the red lips still smiling. He never finished the cut. You have to finish it, or it starts again. The scalpel dipped, pointing to the chart, to Helena's name, then to the number, then to me. I didn't want to touch it, but my hand moved anyway, like it wasn't mine, like it remembered what to do even if I didn't. My fingers wrapped around the handle. It was warm. Not from the room, from something inside it. Like it had been waiting for a hand that fit just right. The blade hovered over my palm, not threatening, inviting. And then I saw it, in the reflection of the metal. Just for a second, a face behind me, not mine, pale, eyes wide, mouth open in a scream that made no sound. Helena. She was still on the table, still bleeding, still dying, still asking, make the cut, End the count before it starts again. I raise the scalpel, my hand steady, my heart not. And just as the tip touched skin, mine or hers, I couldn't tell anymore. The lights went out, not flickered, not dimmed, gone. And from the darkness behind me, a new sound, wheels, rolling closer, not one gurney, dozens, all of them empty, all of them waiting. I never saw the scalpel fall. The dark swallowed it the same way it swallowed Helena's last breath, the same way it swallowed the echo of my own heartbeat. Just wheels now, dozens, a dry, wooden rattle like bones being dragged across tile. And then, closer, softer, the rhythmic squeak of rubber on stone. One set, slow, deliberate. I smelled rust and bleach, mixed together like some twisted cocktail. I backed up until my shoulder blades kissed cold concrete. The wheels stopped. Silence pressed in, heavier than the dark. Then, a single drop hit water. Plink. Another. Plink, plink. I realized the bucket was bleeding drops upward, defying gravity, black beads rising like reverse rain before they burst against the ceiling. Or maybe I was upside down and didn't know it yet. My mind felt loose, like a tooth ready to come out. The squeak resumed, 1 foot at a time. The bucket rolled into the faint red circle cast by the failing bulb. The water inside wasn't water anymore. It was night condensed, darker than anything that ever had a name. Something white bobbed to the surface, a plastic rectangle, a name tag. I didn't want to read it, but my eyes betrayed me, tracing those raised letters like fingers across a scar. Leroy Finch, 1963, electrocution. The tag spun lazily, showing the back. Another line, scratched in later with something sharp. Still conducting. The letters glowed, then bled, black ink dripping upward the same way the drops had. I took 1 step back. My heel found a puddle that hadn't been there a heartbeat before. The water, if that's what it was, spread like oil. Only oil never tried to crawl up your leg. It was cold, so cold it burned. I jerked my foot away, but the black followed, tendrils licking the rubber of my sneaker, like tongues tasting salt. That's when the mop lifted. No hand, no arm, just the wooden handle rising until the gray strings dangled at eye level. They weren't strings anymore. They were strands of hair, wet and clumped, heavy with something thicker than water. The mop head twisted, slowly, until it formed a perfect noose. I heard Helena again, somewhere behind me, whispering through stitches she didn't have time to receive. 62,994. Count with me. The counter on the wall, how long had it been there? Blinked red. 62,994. Each pulse felt like a skipped heartbeat. I didn't want to look away, because looking back at the mop meant seeing Leroy Finch's face forming inside those wet coils, mouth open in the same silent scream Helena wore. I ran, or tried. The floor tilted the moment I moved, sending me sprawling. My palms slapped into the black puddle, and the cold shot up my arms like IV fluid laced with ice. The liquid clung, seeping through skin, searching for veins. I scrambled backward, heels scraping, until my spine hit something metal. A locker. I wrapped my fingers around the handle, pulled myself up. Inside the locker, something rolled. A bottle? A bone? I didn't wait to find out. I yanked harder. The doors swung open with a wet sigh, and a smell rolled out. Ozone and burning hair. A janitor's uniform hung on a hook, crisp and starched, the name Finch embroidered above the pocket. The sleeves twitched like they remembered arms. Oh, behind me, the mop bucket tipped. No crash, just a soft, deliberate pour, like someone emptying tea. The black spread faster now, covering tiles, climbing walls, erasing the red emergency bulb until only the counter's crimson glow remained. 62,993. I stepped into the locker. The door swung shut on its own, sealing me inside a space that smelled like burnt copper and old bleach. Total dark, total silence, except the squeak again, right outside. Wheels turning, but now they sounded heavier, like the bucket had filled with more than water. Something knocked once on the metal. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice, muffled, as if speaking through the mop strings themselves. You dropped this. A cold line pressed against my palm. The scalpel.
I felt the edge bite, just enough to draw blood that felt warm compared to everything else.
The counter inside the locker blinked once, bright enough to light the cramped space. 62,992. And then the locker began to move. Not shaking, rolling. Wheels underneath me now, carrying me somewhere deeper, somewhere the echoes hadn't learned my name yet. The last thing I heard before the dark swallowed even that crimson number was Helena's voice, far away but getting closer, counting down with every heartbeat I had left. The locker rolled to a stop with a wet thud that sounded like meat hitting concrete. I pushed against the door, expecting resistance, but it swung open so easily I tumbled out onto a floor that crunched beneath me. Crayons, hundreds of them, scattered like bones across dusty linoleum. The smell hit next. Old wax and something sweeter, like a kindergarten left to rot. Hello? My voice cracked. The air tasted like childhood and endings. Against the far wall, drawings fluttered like prayer flags, each one more disturbing than the last. Stick figures with black X's for eyes, tumbling from windows that looked suspiciously like Waverly's facade. One drawing caught my eye, bigger than the rest, taped with peeling masking tape that had turned the color of old bruises. It was me, Riley, with X's scratched over my eyes in violent red crayon. Underneath, in a child's shaky handwriting, Sarah Jane, 1970, playground. The paper was yellowed, edges curling like dead leaves, but the crayon lines looked fresh. Too fresh. Like someone had just finished coloring inside my corpse. I reached out to touch it, and that's when I noticed the counter. Not on a locker this time. It was scratched into the wall beneath the drawing, glowing faintly like dying fireflies. 62,993. The number pulsed with each heartbeat I couldn't remember having. The paper fluttered. No wind, no movement in the air at all. But it fluttered like something was breathing on it from the other side. From inside the wall itself. My fingers brushed the edge of the drawing, and the crayon lines began to move. Not like ink spreading, like the wax itself was alive, writhing across the paper like tiny red worms. They drew a new figure beneath my X-eyed portrait, a stick body lying at the bottom of what looked like a tunnel, arms spread wide in that eternal surrender position, the same way Helena had looked when… No. Don't think about Helena right now. Focus on the drawing. Focus on… Sarah Jane? The name came out of my mouth like I'd been chewing on it for decades. It tasted like penny candy and playground dirt, and that last day when everything went wrong, the day the echoes started counting down instead of up. The drawings around me began to rustle like dry leaves in a storm that wasn't happening. Each one showed the same scene from different angles. Children falling, always from windows that looked down into the chute. But there was something wrong with the perspectives. The windows were too high, the ground too far away, and in each drawing, the children seemed to be reaching not for help, but for something else. Something waiting at the bottom. I backed away, and my heel crunched down on something. A crayon, bright blue, the color of a summer sky that never existed here. When I lifted my foot, the wax had melted into the shape of a tiny handprint, child-sized, but the fingers were too long, too many joints, like something that had learned to draw by watching children through windows it could never open. The counter on the wall flickered. 62,992. No, 93. 92. It was counting down and up simultaneously, like it couldn't decide whether I was coming or going. Like even the numbers were confused about what I was anymore. Sarah Jane played here, whispered a voice that sounded like it was gargling gravel and honey. She drew pictures. She counted things. She fell. Just like you're going to fall. The drawing of my body at the bottom of the chute was almost complete now. The crayon had moved on to adding details. My camera bag, my notebook, the exact shade of my jacket that I'd been wearing since… since when? The colors were too accurate, like someone had been watching me through eyes that weren't quite human. I turned to run, but the hallway had changed. The drawings weren't on the walls anymore. They were the walls. Layers and layers of crayon and paper, and something that looked like dried paste, all telling the same story over and over. Children falling, always falling. And at the bottom of every chute, the same figure waited. Sometimes it was Sarah Jane. Sometimes it was me. The counter blinked one last time. 62,994. It had skipped ahead, like it was hurrying now, rushing towards something that was already happening. Behind me, paper rustled, not fluttering this time, folding. Origami made of childhood and endings. When I looked back, the drawing of my body was gone. In its place, a paper airplane floated gently toward me, gliding on air that tasted like goodbye. It landed at my feet, Clear's throat. The paper was warm, still warm, and as I bent to pick it up, I saw what had been drawn on the other side. A door, a very specific door, the one at the top of the chute, the one that never opened from the inside. Someone was knocking on it, from the other side, with hands that sounded too small to make that much noise. I stared at the paper door for one heartbeat too long, and the knocking stopped. Just like that. Silence slithered back in, cold and wet, like breath left in a dead mouth. My fingers still tingled from the warmth of the paper, but the warmth was fading fast, and so was the light. The corridor, already narrow, seemed to inhale, pressing the walls closer until I could feel the pulse in my ears, matching the pulse in the pipes overhead. I folded the airplane, careful, reverent, like I was folding a funeral shawl, and slipped it into my pocket, next to the child's crayon drawing of my own corpse. Yeah, my pockets were getting crowded with prophecies. Somewhere ahead, a hinge squealed. Not the door from the paper, but something smaller, intimate. I followed the sound, boots squelching through puddles that smelled of bleach and lilacs left too long in a vase. The air tasted metallic, like chewing on a mouthful of old keys. And then I heard it, the faintest plink, plink, plink of a music box. Only the notes were running the wrong way, like a tape rewound by a ghost with shaky hands. I swear the melody wanted to lull me to sleep, but every lullaby sounds sinister when it's sung backward. The music box waited for me under the bulb, like a patient child. Walnut lid, chipped cornflower paint, brass key turning all by itself. Slow, steady, inevitable. I crouched, knees cracking louder than gunshots in that hush, and the tune oozed out. Brahms' lullaby, reversed, each note dragging its feet through tar. The sound made my teeth itch. On the inside of the lid, someone had glued a mirror the size of a playing card. It reflected me, sure, but my eyes were scooped hollow, black as the gaps between stars, and my mouth hung open like I'd just remembered a scream I'd never let out. Under the mirror, carved with the tip of a scalpel, Miriam Locke, 1981, overdose. The letters still had powdery white residue caught in their grooves. I should have closed the lid. I didn't. Instead, I watched the reflection's hollow sockets fill with a slow, viscous red, like the mirror was bleeding on the inside. The tune slowed, each plink stretching until it sounded less like music and more like dripping water in a cave. Tick, tick, tick. The counter in my head, 63,000, shivered. I felt it drop, like someone yanked a rung out from under me. 62,992. Each lost echo weighed exactly as much as a name you can't remember anymore. The mirror cracked with a sound like a femur giving way. One sharp diagonal split, top left to bottom right, and through that fracture my reflection reached out. Not the whole hand, just the index finger, thin and gray, pressing through glass that should have been solid. The fingertip looked frostbitten, nail yellow and lifting. It tapped the air between us, once, twice, then beckoned. Imagine being invited into your own reflection by a corpse that hasn't happened yet. I leaned closer. Couldn't help it, like the air was a string tugging my sternum. And the music box hiccuped. The key stopped turning. The lullaby hung on the final reversed note, suspended, waiting for applause that would never come. She wants you to trade places, a voice said. Might have been mine, might have been Miriam's. Might have been the echo counter itself counting down to something hungrier than zero. The finger curled again, more urgent. Behind it, inside the mirror, the corridor stretched. Not the one I knelt in, but a cleaner, brighter version, lit by hospital fluorescence. A gurney rolled past, wheels squeaking. On it lay a girl in a pale gown, wrists strapped down, eyes wide and leaking tears the color of weak tea. She looked exactly like me, except her mouth moved, shaping a word I couldn't hear. I think it was my name, but the version my mother would have used before she forgot she had a daughter. The red in the mirror thickened, coating the fractured glass like syrup. My reflected hand lifted. No, the hollow-eyed Riley inside lifted it, and pressed palm to palm with the reaching finger. Where they met, the glass began to soften, warm as living skin. I felt pressure against my own palm, like someone on the other side pushing back. The counter ticked again, though no number was spoken aloud. I knew it was 62,991 now. Each echo traded for a second of borrowed time. I felt my knees slide on the wet concrete as the mirror pulled. Not forward exactly, sideways, into a direction that doesn't have a name until you're halfway gone. The air grew thick, tasting of copper pennies and lilac perfume left on a nightstand in 1981. The music box gave one last plink, so slow it sounded like a heartbeat giving up. Somewhere far behind me, back in the real corridor, the paper airplane unfolded itself in my pocket, its creases straightening with a papery sigh. I heard the drawn door creak open, the one that never opens from the inside, and tiny footsteps, wet, barefoot, running this way. The finger hooked around mine, cold as river stones. I felt the seam between worlds unzip along the crack in the mirror, and for a breath I was both here and there, straddling the place where the echoes went to die. The girl on the gurney inside lifted her head, eyes no longer hollow, but blazing with borrowed light. She smiled, and it was the exact shape of my own terror. Behind her, the hallway lights snapped off one by one, marching toward us like a countdown made of darkness. The footsteps from the corridor behind me splashed closer, small and quick, and a child's voice called out, not my name, but the name Miriam Locke never answered to again. I tried to pull back. The mirror held me like a promise it intended to keep. The counter pulsed, ready to drop another digit, and just as the lights inside the reflection guttered to black, I saw the paper airplane flutter past the girl on the gurney. Only now, it was shaped like a tiny white pill, and it was headed straight for her open mouth. The corridor narrowed until my shoulders scraped both walls, and the wet stone breathed like something just below the surface of waking. I thought the child's footsteps would follow me. They had all the patience of a dropped match, but the splash faded into a sigh that was almost mine. The air tasted of metal and something sweeter, like refrigerated lilies left too long in standing water. Then the hallway simply ended. No door, no corner. Just a stainless steel wall with 63 drawers stacked like filing cabinets for the permanently absent. The counter on my HUD flickered once, then steadied at 62,992. One heartbeat later, it blinked and dropped to 62,991. I felt the subtraction in my knees. Drawer 62,991 slid open by itself, slow as a yawn that didn't want to be polite. The metal screeched, and the sound echoed inside my teeth. Inside lay a black vinyl bag, zippered shut, with a tag dangling from the pull. My name was typed on it in blocky courier font, Riley Locke. No middle initial, no date, just the name and the number matching the counter. The zipper moved half an inch without my hand anywhere near it, revealing a sliver of gray skin that looked exactly like mine, except for the color and the stillness. It was me, only emptied. I backed up until the opposite wall stopped me. The drawer kept yawning. Another inch of zipper surrendered, and the face inside came clearer. Same freckles, same scar above the left eyebrow from the time Miriam pushed me off the porch, same dry patch on the lower lip. But the eyes were open and filmed like dusty glass, and the mouth was set in the exact shape I make when I'm pretending not to be afraid. Look how well I lie, even when I'm the one being lied to. The HUD pulsed red, syncing with the overhead emergency bulb that had no business still having electricity. Each pulse made the counter drop another fraction, as if the building itself was bleeding numbers. I wanted to look away, but the body, my body, lifted its hand inside the bag, just enough to crease the vinyl. The fingers pressed outward, leaving 4 small dents like a child waving through a fogged window. I told myself it was air displacement, a trick of temperature and pressure. Then the hand turned palm up, and the lifeline etched there was a perfect mirror of mine, except it ended in a bruised purple nothing right at the wrist. That was when I knew the echo had caught up. The drawer next to it rattled softly, then the next, a rolling metallic shiver traveling down the wall like applause. Somewhere in the distance, though distance felt negotiable here, another drawer slammed shut, and the counter blinked again. 62,990. They weren't just counting down, they were making room. I reached for the zipper, not to close it. Closing felt like sealing a verdict, but to see if the tag could be torn off. My fingertips brushed the plastic and immediately went numb, the cold leaping straight into bone. The body inside inhaled, a shallow lift of ribs that made the bag crinkle like dry leaves. The exhale fogged the inside of the vinyl and spelled something I couldn't read because the letters were backwards from my side. Help me, maybe. Or hurry. Behind me, the corridor filled with a sound like wet paper unfolding. I didn't turn. The reflection in the polished steel showed enough. Dozens of small white shapes drifting toward me, each one folded into the silhouette of that pill-shaped airplane from the mirror. They landed soundlessly on the floor, then began to crawl, creasing and flattening, inching closer with every pulse of the red light. The body sat up. The zipper split all the way to the sternum, and the gray Riley stared at me without recognition, as if I were the imposter. Her mouth opened, and a single drop of something thick and black rolled over the lower lip and fell to the floor. Where it landed, the metal sizzled. Another drop formed, ready to follow. I understood the countdown now. Each drop would mark another number lost, another echo taking my place. I backed away again, but the paper pills had circled behind, propping themselves on edge like tiny tombstones. The gray Riley lifted her hand, my hand, and pointed past me toward the far end of the room where a final drawer waited, larger than the rest, its surface dull instead of gleaming. The number painted on it was not 63,000. It was simply a zero, outlined in the same bruised purple as the lifeline on her palm. The counter on my HUD went dark. No blinking, no number, just a flat black square where the digits had been. A perfect score, I thought, and the laugh came out thin and wrong. The drawer marked zero began to open, slowly, as if whatever was inside had all the time that had already been stolen from me. A smell of wet earth and winter apples drifted out first, wrapping around my throat like a promise kept too long. I couldn't move, couldn't even raise my arms to ward off the next thing, because the gray Riley was standing now, stepping out of the bag, dripping black onto the floor with every heartbeat I no longer felt. She leaned close, and when she spoke, her voice was exactly mine, only played backward through a tunnel of teeth. "The last echo is always the first," she said. "Remember the porch step." Behind her, the zero drawer yawned wider, and something inside it exhaled the coldest breath I had ever tasted. I wanted to ask what waited there, but my throat had already filled with the taste of lilies and rust. The paper pills rustled, folding themselves into something smaller, something swallowable. The gray Riley smiled, not kindly, not cruelly, then walked past me toward the open zero drawer. As she stepped through, her skin peeled away in soft petals that drifted upward like ash. The last thing I saw before the lights failed was her hand reaching back, fingers spread, waiting for mine. And the counter, dead a moment ago, flared back to life, glowing a soft, inviting white. The number it showed wasn't zero, it was 1. The counter clicked again, and this time it sounded like teeth tapping on glass. 1 became 2, 2 became 10, and then the corridor I had been stumbling through, cold tile, the smell of bleach and lilies, began to change. The walls peeled back like wet wallpaper, revealing panels of polished glass that stretched from floor to ceiling, edge to edge, until the hallway became a tunnel of mirrors. I stopped walking. My breath fogged a first mirror, and when it cleared, I wasn't alone. A girl stood beside me. No, beside my reflection, her hair wet and clinging to a face I didn't know. She blinked, slow, and her mouth opened as if she meant to speak, but only water spilled out, running down her chin and dripping onto the floor between us. I took a step back, and so did the reflection Riley, but the girl stayed, eyes wide, like she was waiting for me to remember her name. I didn't. The next mirror showed a boy with half his jaw missing, the skin there flapping like a torn curtain. He reached toward the glass, and I swear his fingertips left smudges on my side. The Riley in that mirror looked older, hollow-cheeked, her hospital gown stained dark at the collar. She didn't seem to notice the boy, but he noticed her. He mouthed something, "Help me, maybe," and the glass between us cracked, just a hairline fracture, like a whispered threat. Mirror after mirror, each one worse. A woman with no eyes, only sockets packed with ash. A man whose arms bent backwards, palms pressed flat against his own shoulder blades. A child clutching a music box I recognized from the drawer, its lid open, the ballerina spinning, but her face was a blur, like someone had tried to erase it with a thumb. Every reflection of me looked more tired, more afraid. My hair was tangled with cobwebs in one, my lips sewn shut in another, and always, the ghost beside me changed, as if the mirrors were showing me a rotating cast of everyone who had ever walked this hall and never left. The counter ticked faster now. 57, 58. I tried not to look, but the red numbers bled into my peripheral vision like a fever. At mirror 30-something, I'd lost count. The ghost was a nurse, her cap crisp, her eyes black holes. She raised a syringe the size of a knitting needle and pressed it to the glass. The Riley beside her didn't flinch. She just stared straight ahead, like she'd already accepted whatever came next. Then, suddenly, the ghosts stopped appearing. The last mirror stood alone at the end of the corridor. It was taller than the others, its frame tarnished silver, veined with green corrosion. I stepped closer, heart hammering loud enough to drown the counter. And there I was, Riley, just Riley. No ghost beside me, no extra shadows, just me, alone, staring back. Except, my reflection didn't move when I did. It stood still, arms limp, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. Beneath the glass, scratched deep into the metal frame, were words. Liam O'Dell, vanished 1999. The letters were uneven, like someone had carved them with a key or a fingernail. I reached out to touch them, and the reflection did the same, but slower, like it was underwater. Our fingertips met, mine against cold glass, its against nothing. Then the cracks started. A single, thin line split the mirror from top to bottom, right between my eyes. The sound was sharp, like bone snapping. The next mirror behind me cracked too, then the next, a domino of shattering glass racing back the way I'd come. I ran, or tried to. My feet slipped on the fog that had begun to pour from the cracks, thick and warm, smelling of lilies and something metallic. The counter screamed now, not ticking, but shrieking, numbers flipping too fast to read. 90, 89, 88. The mirrors exploded one by one, each burst spraying silver dust that clung to my skin like frost. And then, silence. I stood in the dark, glass crunching under my shoes. The counter had stopped at 62,990. One more, I thought. One more, and it hits zero. Whatever happens then, I don't want to see it. But I think it wants to see me. From somewhere behind the broken mirrors, a voice called my name. Not Riley. Not the name I was born with. The name from the drawing, the one I'd never spoken aloud. It said it again, soft, like a lullaby, like a dare. I turned, and the last shard of glass still hanging in the frame caught my eye. In it, I wasn't alone anymore. Liam stood beside me. Liam O'Dell, vanished 1999. He looked exactly like the missing poster I'd seen taped to the tunnel wall hours ago, or days, or years. Same freckles, same crooked smile, same empty eyes. He raised his hand, not to wave, but to point. Past him, deeper in the reflection, the corridor kept going. Not broken, not dark, just waiting. And at the end of it, a door I hadn't seen before. The counter clicked, 62,991. Liam's mouth moved. No sound came out, but I understood. "You're almost there," he said, or didn't say. But the last step, you have to take it alone. The mirror began to bleed, red seeping from the cracks like veins. I reached for the door in the reflection, and the counter blinked. I stepped through the wooden door, and the air changed, thick as syrup and twice as warm. The mirror's bleeding had stopped the moment I crossed the threshold, but I could still taste iron on my tongue. 62,989, the HUD whispered. 62,988. The numbers fell like drops of water in a cave, each one taking something I couldn't name. My boots stuck to the floor, each step peeling away with a wet pop. The walls weren't stone anymore. They were meat, pink and glistening, stretching up into darkness so high I couldn't see the ceiling. They moved, a slow, deliberate throb that sent tremors through the ground and up my spine. My own heart stuttered to match the beat. 1, 2, 1, 2. Perfect synchronization, like the chamber had been waiting for me to arrive. The whispers started soft, then grew.
63,000 voices, layered over each other until they became a single, vibrating note. I couldn't make out words, just the pressure of them, pressing behind my eyes, curling around my throat. I swallowed, but the taste stayed. Copper and salt and something sweet gone rotten. In the center of the chamber stood a stone slab, not carved, not placed. It looked like it had grown there, pushing up through the floor like a tooth. A spotlight, no bulb, no source, just hung above it, stark and white. The slab had a label. I didn't want to read it, but my eyes moved anyway. The 63,000 Echo. Carved deep, the letters darker than the stone itself, like they went down forever. I walked forward. My heartbeat kept pace with the walls. Every thud echoed inside my ribs, inside my skull. I thought of Liam, back in the corridor of mirrors, his mouth moving with no sound. You have to take the last step alone. I hated that he'd been right. I hated that I was still walking. The slab was waist high, rough under my fingers. It felt warm, not stone warm, skin warm. I pulled my hand back, and the whispers shifted, curious. 62,983, 62,982. The countdown felt personal now, like each number was a second shaved off my life. I leaned closer. The depression in the slab wasn't random. It was shaped like a body, my body. Shoulders, hips, the curve of a neck. I didn't remember moving, but suddenly I was lying inside it, the stone cradling me like it had been waiting. The whispers rose to a roar. My heartbeat thundered. The walls pulsed faster, frantic, hungry. Then it stopped. All of it. Silence so complete I could hear the blood in my ears. The HUD blinked once. 62,975. Then the chamber spoke, not in words, in pressure. A question pressed against my tongue like a fingertip. I tasted tears I hadn't cried. I understood. I had to choose. One name, one voice out of 63,000. The echo that would finish the count. I thought of Mom, her face already soft around the edges of memory. I thought of Liam, his silent warning. I thought of myself, Riley, the girl who walked into a tunnel and never walked out. The slab warmed beneath me, impatient. The whispers coiled around my throat, not choking, just holding, waiting. My own heartbeat slowed, heavy, like the chamber was borrowing its rhythm. I opened my mouth. No air came out. I tried again. Still nothing. Choose. The walls seemed to breathe. Choose, or become the echo instead. I closed my eyes. The silence stretched, thinner and thinner, until it felt like it would snap. Then I heard it. A single voice cutting through the rest. Familiar. Terrifying. Mine. But not mine. The echo of me, from a moment I hadn't lived yet. It whispered a name. Not mine. Not Liam's. A name I didn't know but somehow felt in my bones. The slab began to sink. Slowly, smoothly, as if the floor was swallowing it. The whispers surged, triumphant. The countdown froze at 62,974. My heartbeat skipped, faltered, then locked back into the chamber's rhythm. I tried to scream. The sound came out as a name. Not the one I expected. Not the one I'd chosen. The name the echo had spoken. The walls pulsed once, hard. The spotlight blinked out, and in the darkness I felt the chamber smile. I didn't hear the final number fall. The slab sank beneath me like a stone dropped into oil, slow and inevitable.
I felt it slide, smooth and cold, until my back pressed against what should have been the ceiling, and my fingers brushed the floor. The heartbeat chamber had flipped. Gravity had folded itself inside out. I was lying on the underside of the world now, and the world was upside down. The darkness wasn't empty. It was full of breath, of waiting, of names I hadn't said yet. The slabs stopped, a hush. Then the names began again. They didn't whisper this time. They spoke, one by one, clear as a bell in a funeral parlor. And each time a name rang out, a footstep answered, a shuffle, a drag, a heel-scraping stone. I couldn't see them, but I knew they were coming. The ghosts, the echo's children, the ones I had summoned just by being here. I scrambled to my knees. The slab was still beneath me, but now it felt like a raft on a black lake. My hands found the edge, then air. No walls, just void. I was alone with the names and the footsteps and the thing that waited for me to choose. The countdown resumed. 62,975, 76, 77. Each number was a heartbeat. Each heartbeat was a soul. And I knew, somehow I just knew, that if I reached 63,000, I'd become one of them. Not dead, not alive, just echo, a voice in the dark, waiting for someone else to say my name. I had to stop it. I had to find a name that wasn't mine. I crawled across the slab, palms stinging, knees scraping. My fingers found the edge of something carved into the stone. Not a name, a list, a ledger. Thousands of them, etched in letters that glowed faintly, like dying fireflies. I ran my hand along them, frantic. The names blurred. I couldn't read them fast enough. The footsteps were closer now. I smelled wet earth, rotting lilacs, hospital soap. 62,980, 81. Stop, I whispered. Please. But the echo didn't listen. It never had. It just counted. And waited. I found a name, read it aloud. Eleanor Marsh, 1946, influenza. A shape stepped forward from the dark. A woman in a hospital gown, eyes like frost on glass. She didn't speak, just stared. Then she tilted her head, like she was listening for something she'd never hear again. And she waited. Another name. Benjamin Cole, 1962, fire. A boy, no older than 10, burns on his arms, smoke in his hair. He blinked once, then stood beside Eleanor, both of them watching me. I kept reading. Faster. Desperate. Margaret Lorne, 1989, stroke. James Wu, 2001, overdose. Each name I spoke pulled another ghost from the dark. They formed a circle around the slab, silent, still. Their eyes hollow, but their mouths slightly open, as if still trying to speak. 62,990, 91. I was crying now. Tears hit the stone and hissed like drops on a hot stove. My voice cracked. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry. Then I saw it. Caroline Vale, 2003, aneurysm. My mother's name. The letters were carved deeper than the others. The glow around them pulsed, warm and golden. Not like the others. Not cold. Not dead. I froze. The footsteps stopped. The ghosts didn't move. They waited. My hand hovered over the name. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it had been caved in. I hadn't said her name out loud in 20 years. Not since the night she died. Not since I found her on the kitchen floor, eyes open, mouth slack, the phone still in her hand. I remembered the smell of her perfume, the way she hummed when she folded laundry, how she'd called me her little echo, always repeating her words back to her, always following her like a shadow. And now the echo wanted her back. It wanted me to say her name, to pull her from the dark, to make her one of them. No, I whispered. Not her. Anyone but her. But the slab pulsed. Once. Twice. Like it was urging me. Like it was saying, she's already here. She's been waiting. Just say it. I looked up. The ghosts were closer now. They're circled tighter. Eleanor reached out a hand. Benjamin tilted his head. My mother's name glowed brighter. 62,998.99. The final name, the final choice. I opened my mouth, but no sound came, just a sob. A single broken thing. And then a voice, not mine, hers, from behind me. "Riley," she said, "say it." My mother's voice coiled around me like warm smoke, gentle and impossible. "Say it, Riley. Say Caroline Vale." The slab pulsed beneath my knees. 63,000 ghosts leaning so close I could feel their winter breath in my hair. I tasted copper and tears. I lifted the shard of mirror I'd kept since the mirror wall, its edge slick with my own blood. The name above me flared, eager, hungry. One word and the ledger would close. The chute would drink me down, and Mom would finally... No, I wouldn't trade her soul for mine, not like this. My hand moved without asking permission. I pressed the glass into the soft stone. Slivers of light sparked where metal met mineral. I carved not Caroline, but Riley. Then Vale. Then, because the ghosts were screaming and the counter ticked 62,999 and climbing, I added 3 more words. Live on air. The moment the last letter took shape, the slab convulsed like a dying thing. A sound rose, not wind, not voice, pure vibration that rattled my teeth. The counter snapped to 0 so hard the numbers cracked. The ghosts surged forward, mouths open in silent howls, but instead of dragging me down, they recoiled as if burned. Beneath my palms, the slab ruptured, not crumbling, birthing. A jagged mouth of daylight yawned above me, impossibly far, yet suddenly reachable. Ropes of light lashed around my wrists, my waist, my throat, gentle but inexorable. I tried to grab the camera, to keep the promise I'd whispered to 63,000 strangers, but the light yanked me upward so fast my stomach stayed on the ground. My boots scraped stone, then air. The chute roared like a wounded animal. The ghosts followed, a comet tail of frost and regret. Their fingers brushed my ankles. Begging or cursing, I couldn't tell. I smelled lilies and formaldehyde, Mom's perfume mixed with the rot of decades. Somewhere below, the camera clattered onto the slab, lens pointing straight up the shaft. Its red tally stayed lit, recording nothing, recording everything. I shot through layers of darkness I hadn't known existed. Each stratum peeled away like old paint. The heartbeat chambers thud still pulsing in the walls, the mirror walls 1,000 fractured reflections of my own terrified eyes. The lobby where Benjamin first handed me the map drawn in ash. They streaked past in reverse, history unspooling. And then, sky. Not the bruised twilight I'd entered through, but raw, noon-bright sky punched into the chute's crown. The ropes of light tightened, hauling me toward it. I reached for the edges, fingernails splitting on stone, but the chute didn't want to keep me anymore. It wanted me gone. Or maybe it wanted an audience. I broke the surface with a sound like tearing silk. Sunlight slapped my face, so bright it felt violent. I lay on warm grass, the tunnel mouth of black pupils staring from the earth. No hospital ruins, no parking lot, just rolling hills under a sky too blue to trust. I rolled over, coughing ash. My clothes stank of the chute's breath. Behind me, the opening began to close, not collapsing, folding, like a book finishing its last chapter. The edges met with a soft kiss of stone on stone. Grass stitched itself across the seam until only a faint scar remained. I clawed at it, nails packed with black dirt. No, 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 not like this. I left them behind. I left the camera. I left the proof. Somewhere beneath that scar, 63,000 faces leaned toward a single lens. I could almost hear the feed humming, the tally frozen on 0. Were they still watching darkness, or had the chute granted them my empty seat, a window into daylight they could never reach? I pictured the chat scrolling. Where is she? Did she make it? Is this the end? I had no way to answer. I was the glitch in their haunted marathon. I stood, legs shaking. The hills looked familiar and alien at once, as though someone had rearranged the world while I was underground. A breeze carried the scent of honeysuckle, and something sharper, ozone, like after lightning. My ears rang with the chute's last scream.
or maybe with silence too pure to bear. That's when I noticed the pocket of my jacket heavier than it should be. I reached in, heart hammering, the shard of mirror. Its surface, once clouded with my blood, now reflected nothing. Not my face, not the sky, just a perfect, depthless black. And inside that black, a single red tally blinked. One word glowed beneath it, carved in my own handwriting. I brought it closer. The tally wasn't counting down anymore. It was counting up. 1, 2, 3. Each number a heartbeat I no longer controlled. The glass grew warm against my palm. Somewhere, far below, the chute had found a new voice, and it was using my name. I turned to run, but the hills rippled like heat haze. The scar in the earth cracked open a whisper, just wide enough for a lens to peek through. The feed hadn't ended. It had followed me, and the next chapter was already buffering. The hills stopped rippling at dawn. 2 weeks of silence, 2 weeks of pretending the feed had died with the night. I deleted the raw files, burned the SD cards, even yanked the battery from my phone like that could cauterize the wound. But every time I closed my eyes, the counter kept climbing inside my skull, slow and steady, like a pulse that had learned to walk without me. I woke this morning to a notification. No preview, no title, just the familiar thumbnail of Riley's helmet, catching the sunrise we never really saw together. The upload had happened at 3:44 in the morning, exactly the minute the chute last spoke my name. YouTube labeled it unlisted, yet the view counter already read 63,000. A cruel joke. I never pressed publish. The platform insisted I had. I sat on the edge of my bed, thumb hovering, heart stuttering. The air tasted metallic, like licking a 9-volt battery. One tap and the video began. No intro music, no greeting, just the soft crunch of boots on frostbitten grass. The camera aimed at the ground as if ashamed to show the sky. I watched myself, past me, walk the half-mile from the tree line to the mouth of the body chute. My own breathing filled the headphones, ragged, excited, stupidly alive. I wanted to scream at the screen, warn that idiot, but the past never listens. The footage skipped, a single dropped frame, and suddenly the lens stared into the visor of Riley's helmet, lying abandoned in the weeds. Sunrise painted the scratched polycarbonate gold, then blood red, then gold again. And there, reflected in the curved mirror of the visor, stood a figure. Tall, thin, edges smeared like wet ink. The head tilted, studying me, studying it. I leaned closer. The reflection did not lean with me. It stepped forward instead, one silent stride closer to the camera. My throat went dry. The timestamp in the corner froze at 23 minutes and 59 seconds, refusing to tick over to the next second. A heartbeat hung, suspended. Then the counter on the video did something impossible. It began to climb. 63,001, 2, 3. Each new number pulsed in time with the reflection's shoulders rising and falling, as if the entire audience breathed through that single silhouette. I felt the air leave my own lungs in perfect sync. The comments section, still empty when I started watching, now held a single line, posted by a user named echo_63000. The text read, "I took your place, you took mine." No likes, no replies, just the words hanging like a verdict. My phone buzzed again, a new notification. Someone had replied to echo_63000. The username was my own, spelled letter for letter. The reply was only 3 words. Comment your name. I hadn't typed it. I hadn't even opened the app. Yet there it sat, time-stamped 1 minute in the future. I stared at the clock on my wall, watched the second hand crawl toward the impossible minute. When it arrived, the reply appeared, right on schedule, as if the server itself had grown impatient. I backed away from the screen until my shoulders hit the bedroom wall. The video still played. The reflection still watched. And I swear, its lips moved, shaping a word I could almost hear through the glass of my phone. My name, not Riley's, mine. The audio track crackled, then smoothed into the low hum I remembered from the tunnels. Ventilation fans, dripping stone, distant screaming that might have been wind. The silhouette raised a hand, palm against the inside of the visor, fingers splayed like a child pressing against a car window. The glass fogged under its breath, writing 3 small letters in condensation. URL. URL. Universal. Resonant. Loop. Take your pick. The acronym didn't matter. What mattered was the invitation. The counter hit 63,063, then froze. The progress bar filled to the end, yet the video refused to finish. Instead, the image slowly dissolved, not to black, but to the same hillside at sunset, the helmet now gone. In its place lay only the shadow of something that had never cast one before, stretched long across the grass, like a road pointing straight back to Waverly. I felt the tug immediately, a gentle but insistent pressure behind my sternum, as if a string had been tied there weeks ago, and someone on the other side had just given it a playful tug. My cursor hovered over the comment box. The placeholder text read, "Add a public comment." I typed nothing, yet my name appeared, letter by letter, as though the keyboard itself remembered the shape of me better than I did. I hit backspace. The name reappeared. I held the delete key until the field was empty. When I let go, the cursor blinked once, then offered a single suggestion: post. The screen pulsed, matching my heartbeat again. Somewhere deep inside the circuitry, the chute was still counting, trading one echo for another, swapping souls like baseball cards. I understood the bargain now. Riley's helmet had been the first marker. The 63,000th view had been the last. All that remained was the signature on the contract. I placed my thumb over the glowing button. The phone warmed, then burned, then felt cold as winter iron. The shadow on the hillside waited, patient, eternal. I could refuse, walk away, smash the device, but the reflection had already stepped through the glass. It was only waiting for me to admit I'd been carrying it home in my pocket the whole time. My thumb descended. The screen cut to black. No credits, no music. Just the final caption, white letters centered, gentle as a lullaby. Comment your name below. I heard my own voice, distant, recorded weeks ago, whisper from the speaker. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Then, nothing. Silence filled the room, thick as water. I looked at the empty comment box on my screen. My cursor blinked. Once. Twice. I smiled. The way you smile at an old friend who's come to collect a debt long forgotten. My fingers found the keys. I began to type.